Hello, folks. Welcome back. Today I've got something slightly different for you. This is a reaction video. Yay. Uh, this is a video from Language Lords, a guy I commented on already a few months ago, who has a very interesting, and I say interesting because it's very different, method of learning languages. He's got some interesting claims as well. Uh, his system is, if he's using the same system at least, is nothing like what most well-known language learners or polyglots or whatever you wanna call them are doing. So yeah, uh, let's take a look at this. I'm gonna comment on the whole video. Uh, this is a Spanish one, so I'm quite qualified to comment on it because I'm a native speaker, or let's say near native. I mean, it's my second native language. In his French ones, he had a bunch of things I liked, a bunch of things I didn't like. Uh, let's see what he does now. I assume he's using the same system, but let's find out.
Quiero ser políglota, es decir, una persona que habla muchos idiomas. Y hace casi un año me embarqué en la misión de dominar el francés. Y presque un an plus tard, mon français n'est pas mal, hein? Creé un
Yeah, his French sounds really good.
método que me permitió mejorar mucho el francés y empezar a hablar con fluidez. Así que sí, decidí hacer lo mismo con el español. Vámonos.
Okay.
comenzó a, comenzó a hacer mis, comenzó a hacer progresos. Creo que ese, ese tiempo, esta vez voy a hablar solamente en español durante yo sé que siempre hay la posibilidad que
His Spanish sounds as bad as my Russian, except instead of 44 days, I've been learning Russian for a year and still sucks. But I mean, what you gonna do? Let's see. He's got okay, okay. He's like halfway through it.
las personas sean incorrectas. Con la disciplina, nosotros podremos continuar durante los momentos difíciles. Yo sé que lo que estoy haciendo ahora es la única manera para salir de mi situación actual. Nuestro acento es algo también que es importante para ser entendidos y por eso yo quiero dominar el acento.
Solamente en algunas palabras yo puedo decirlo, yo puedo escucharlo, pero es claro, es muy raro. ¿Cómo se dice? Las personas que matan a otras personas. Matador. Asesinos.
Solamente tenemos que repetir algo y después de un tiempo vamos a poder hacerlo automáticamente a un nivel muy alto. Es impresionante.
Este video muestra exactamente lo que hice para lograr estos resultados. Okay, here's my Spanish background before I started.
Okay. 4 years of high school Spanish, 1 semester of college Spanish. That's actually quite a lot. So yeah, this is he didn't learn Spanish in 44 days. More like he had 4 or 5 years of Spanish learning way back in the day. And I mean, even if it's a while ago, still you learn quite a lot, especially vocab and basic grammar ability to. Maybe you don't speak fluently, you can't form sentences, you don't feel confident speaking, but you clearly understand quite a lot. It's really not like this is what we call a false beginner or someone who's activating the Spanish, not learning it.
And here's a breakdown of the steps of this method. I'm working on a video that
And to be honest, to be fair, this is not a knock on the guy. Like, maybe at the end of the year, I'm gonna do like a 30-day French video myself. Of course, I'm not starting from zero, but I haven't touched my French in ages. I've got a trip to France to Bretagne, and yeah, I'm gonna get my French up to. I'm gonna get it ready before. So I might probably do something like this, but yeah, I'm not learning in 30 days, clearly. Learn the basics, reach basic fluency, reach native fluency. No, you didn't reach native fluency. Like, it's no, mate. uh, no, his Spanish was decent at the end of the 44 days, I think, but uh, no, nowhere near native. Uh, Basic fluency. Yeah, okay, you can do that. So with the basics, I think he means. Yeah, I think for anyone watching this and getting ideas on how to like they should do the same thing. This is my this is my advice with this. You should have two phases. One, lots of input, lots of reading and listening at the same time. Uh, Check all the vocab you don't know. Start with simple stuff and then listen and read increasingly difficult things, so you learn a lot of vocabulary and you end up learning the grammar more or less. And once you feel confident enough, you try and speak. Uh, Lots of conversation and somebody correcting your your grammar while speaking and your pronunciation. That's what I do. Yeah, there's no real like what's the basic fluency, like just terms are very vague.
details this entire process. So subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss it. And give this video a like if you find it helpful.
One thing I have to say, this guy's production value, uh, really, really, really good. Man, compared to my own videos at least, like mine look like they were edited by a 3-year-old.
In a nutshell, what I did was research the language, learn the basics, reach fluency, and
What does rich fluency mean though? And rich native fluency.
now I'm working toward reaching a native level. Each step of this method was designed with a specific goal and with 2 exercises designed for reaching that specific goal. Here are the 3 goals. First, learn to put together basic sentences correctly. Second, learn to recall the words that you know automatically in order to communicate with other people. Third, develop an advanced vocabulary and a native level accent. The first thing I did was research the language. This is something that I didn't do when I learned French. I did it this time to understand what I was up against, to be able to build a plan of attack, and to avoid getting stuck down the line. All I did was search Google for things that trip people up when learning Spanish in order to prepare accordingly. Step 1. Learn the basics. The goal of this step is to learn to put together basic sentences correctly. If you're a total beginner, I recommend that you start off with a few weeks of Duolingo, about an hour or 2 a day, so when you start learning with this approach, you'll have confidence and won't feel lost. Learning the basics for me included mastering just 2 things: vocabulary.
Entonces me di cuenta.
I strongly suggest against this. Avoid Duolingo like the plague. Use either link, the mini stories there, and or Asimil. Uh, Read and listen to those, and then listen and repeat, and check the vocab. You'll learn all the basic there. Much more effective than this, I think, especially than Duolingo.
and verb conjugation.
Pensaste.
Here's how I built a basic vocabulary. I only wanted to learn the most commonly used words in the language. Instead of finding and memorizing a list of common Spanish words, I decided to learn vocabulary words within the context of real conversations of native Spanish speakers. To do this, I watched 5 Spanish language TED Talks several times each with the goal of making all of the words in these 5 videos my base vocabulary in Spanish. I use TED Talks because very often they include perfect, verbatim transcripts written by real humans and not auto-generated. First, I looked up every single word that I didn't understand in each of these TED Talks, and then I watched the videos repeatedly while reading their transcripts until each video sounded nearly as clear to me as English. My goal with this exercise wasn't perfect comprehension of the entire Spanish language, but rather to be able to understand all the words in these 5 videos in context in order to use them to build my base vocabulary. The repetition of watching these videos while reading their transcripts really helped me to understand nearly every word and phrase in these 5 videos.
Ojo. Ay. Coche.
A quick word about flashcards, just FYI. When I learned French, I used a lot of flashcards and a flashcard app called Anki. But now I prefer, by far, learning vocabulary with this new method because flashcards remove the words from their context. This method allows me to no longer have to use flashcards.
Yeah, words always in context. Yeah, I'm forgetting my English now. Um, Although Anki does have sentences with audio that you can read and listen to, and you learn the vocab and the grammar in context. Uh, I would never suggest to use Anki as your main source of learning, but it's a useful tool if you've got 5 minutes here and there while you're waiting in line or something like that.
To learn words because I can study all the words and phrases in these videos just by watching all 5 videos every day. I choose videos that are about 10 minutes apiece so I can watch all 5 in about an hour. Studying vocabulary with this method gives you 2 things that flashcards don't: context and pronunciation. To start learning verb conjugation, I developed a method that allowed me to study the most.
You want to learn grammar and vocab in context? Just read, and listen. Listen, watch stuff with subtitles. I really wouldn't recommend. I just don't do this. Don't do this. Not because it's not a valid way of learning. It's just you're going to want to kill yourself after 5 minutes of trying that. Like making lists, spreadsheets. It needs to be enjoyable. Otherwise, I don't know what kind of discipline this guy has, but maybe he's a computer programmer, coder, or something like that, and he spends all day in front of a computer anyway. But any person with, you know, uh, real life, like outdoors hobbies and stuff, you will end up trying to kill yourself if you do this. It's just not sustainable.
Most common verb conjugations as efficiently as possible. I researched Spanish verb conjugation and learned that there are AR, ER, and IR verbs. There are also irregular, regular, and stem changing verbs. I determined that the short, irregular verbs in Spanish are the most common and most important. These are the verbs like ser, hacer, poner, ver, etc. I found about 20 verbs like this and decided to spend the most time mastering them because they were the verbs that I was seeing most often in my vocabulary exercise. I also
You know also how you can learn all the most common verbs and vocab in general? Just reading and listening. They're common. They're the most common because they're common, so they keep showing up.
took about 30 verbs that fell into the categories that I mentioned a second ago: AR, ER, IR, regular, irregular, and stem change, and I studied them as well. Verb conjugation is all about being able to recognize the patterns that you find between the verbs. Once you understand the pattern, you'll be able to guess with high accuracy the conjugations of words you've never used before when you want to use them in conversation. For this reason, I didn't study any other verbs apart from these 50.
And he's right. You'll start recognizing the patterns, but you can do the same just reading and listening. Just watching the patterns in the natural context instead of doing this.
I spent the majority of my time with the 20 irregular verbs that I mentioned before. The full list of verbs that I mastered is in the description. Here's an example of my verb conjugation study process. I use a Google Sheet to do this.
He would think. Pensaría. They thought. Pensaron. I would think. Pensaría. He thought. Pensó.
Step 2. Get fluent. The goal of this section is to learn to recall the words that you know automatically in order to communicate with other people. Most people believe fluency means complete mastery of a language, but fluency for me is the point where you can easily communicate your thoughts, needs, etc. in conversation, even if it's not perfect. Estoy en Chicago a la casa de mis padres. Voy a pasar.
Wait. The guy lives with his parents? Or maybe he's visiting. I mean, if he's got the discipline and work ethic to sit down 8 hours a day or 12 or whatever he said he was in front of a laptop and study this, like he should be a coder or something making big money.
Pasar un poco de tiempo aquí. Reaching fluency is the most important part of this method because this is also the point where language learning becomes fun and the point where you become less likely to quit. To get to this point, I use 2 exercises. The first is called a 10 by 10 and the second is a basic speaking exercise. In my 10 by 10 exercise, I did the same thing I did with the 5 videos that I talked about in the Learn the Basics step, but this time I watched 10 new videos with general subject matter 10 times that were on average about 10 minutes long. I read the transcripts while I watched the videos, again in order to be able to better understand them. I repeated this several times per day until I began to naturally incorporate words and phrases from these videos into my active vocabulary when I practice speaking. By active vocabulary, I mean the words that my brain uses naturally without me having to think about it. To date, I've watched these videos hundreds of times, and there's several parts of each video that I know completely by heart. Repetition is key. I continued to watch these videos over and over again, and then I incorporated the second exercise of this method, which is a 30-minute speaking exercise.
Yeah, I'd kill myself if I had to watch a TED Talk, the same TED Talk, many times in a row. And also, the thing with TED Talks is it's just one person talking, you know? You want to learn conversation, natural conversation, listen to podcasts or radio. There, people talk to each other and you hear the natural patterns, the natural rhythm of the language in actual conversation instead of somebody giving a speech or a talk, you know? Although, I mean, definitely if he's able to do that, good for him.
Here's a video on exactly how to do the speaking exercise that I
I
used
love
for
the
this method.
clickbaity faces.
For this exercise, I take one of the videos from my 10 by 10 list, I watch it and take notes on
Love
it,
this guy.
and then I use those notes to summarize what happened in the video in my target language. I did this exercise for at least 30 minutes every day, but on a normal day, I spent 4 to 6 hours doing the speaking exercise in 30-minute segments, using the notes of a different 10 by 10 video to speak from each time. After doing these 2 exercises intensively for 30 days, I was able to communicate with other people. Notice, I treat this like my full-time job. I do these exercises on average 8 hours a day, but spent several days working 12 hours a day or more. At this point, I found 2 language partners and started practicing my speaking with them. One I found on Hello Talk, and the other was actually my French language partner's Spanish partner.
A un club deportivo,
Okay. ¿Cerca de tu casa?
como a 1 kilómetro.
That's as far as I went for the 44 days of this method, and this was the result.
Comenzó a hacer mis... Solamente tenemos que repetir algo. Comenzó a hacer... Después de un tiempo vamos a poder hacerlo automáticamente a un nivel muy alto. Es impresionante.
It's been a couple of weeks since I finished this 44-day project and reached what I consider basic fluency. Now I've started the step that I call native fluency, where I try to reach a native speaking level. This part will take the most time and is best not to rush it. This should be relatively stress-free because I can already communicate with other people and use the language for what I realistically need it for in my life. Step 3. Reach native fluency. The goal of this step is to develop an advanced vocabulary and a native level accent. To reach native fluency, I'm using 2 exercises. With the first exercise, I'm developing an advanced vocabulary. For this, I do a new 10 by 10 exercise, but with specific topics that are important to my life. For example, videography is a big part of my life because I make YouTube videos. With this technique, I can get better at videography and improve my Spanish at the same time. This is a very important concept to me because I spend nearly all of my time learning languages. If I wasn't able to study both videography and Spanish simultaneously like this, I wouldn't be able to improve my videography skills for lack of time. This way, I can kill two birds with one stone, and I suggest you use this technique to do the same, improve in other areas of your life while you learn your new language. I made a 10 by 10 for videography, and I watch it every day for about a month. Then, for example, I'll make a 10 by 10 for digital marketing and focus on acquiring that vocabulary next month. The second goal of this step is to develop a native accent. I do this with something called shadowing. Here's a quick example of me doing it. It's very simple.
Eres pobre, ya, deja de ser víctima.
Eres pobre, ¿ya? Deja de ser víctima.
Y antes de que me juzgues o creas que yo te estoy juzgando a ti
Y antes de que me juzgues o creas que yo te estoy juzgando a ti,
porque no tengo ni idea de lo que vives,
porque no tengo idea de lo que vives,
Choose a video of someone whose accent you'd like to have and play about 5 minutes of that video in this manner, pausing the video to repeat each phrase as accurately as you can.
Comencemos por los círculos sociales más cercanos.
sí. Comencemos por los círculos sociales más cercanos.
This is tough at the beginning because it can seem like your accent is way off, even though you're trying your best. Again, repetition is key.
Bonjour à vous, ici David Laroche de la série Wake Up Calls.
Bonjour à vous, ici David Laroche de la série Wake Up Calls.
Every time you do this exercise, you mentally capture a little bit more of the accent until you're able to hear and master even the subtle nuances of each word. Practice. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. To the left is a video.
This last exercise is really good. Listening and repeating or shadowing. Personally, I find shadowing a little bit hard to do. I did a lot of listening and repeating when I was preparing my Cambridge proficiency exam. But the native level fluency thing, no, mate. I've been working on my English for, I don't know, 25 years. My girlfriend's British. I've got a Cambridge proficiency certificate. I've been teaching English, business English here in my hometown. I don't consider myself anywhere near native level in English. You can get good, but native level fluency, it's, unless you live in the country for years and years. I mean, I'm not trying to discourage anyone. It's just the reality. The problem with these guys, not even system, the problem with the whole concept is that you need to be insanely disciplined and insanely like focused to just do this all the time. It's stuff that, but like unless just some, you know, some cyborg or something, like, yeah, you need to be like a machine to do this. Like, it's repeat, like make lists of stuff, repeat. Like, any normal, and I mean, and with normal I mean average person would just quit quickly because this is boring as hell to do. The guy, well, if he makes videos, he said he does some videography stuff. Yeah, I mean that's the reason why his videos are really, like, really good quality. Really, the production value is really good, especially in the middle part where he was doing like all the. I don't know, I'm lost. Yeah, the production quality is really good. Videos, the music, the different cuts, and yeah, that's really good stuff. So he presents it in a package that's really attractive visually. But once you get to the actual system, like anyone, let's say, okay, first of all, if you're a productive member of society, like you've got a job or you can do this. You can dedicate 8 hours a day to this. You can dedicate way more time than most people think, but not 8 hours. Um, you could maybe do 2 or 3 hours a day of learning, maybe 4, 5 even, if you really must. But yeah, no, 8 hours is too much. Like, you need to, if you've got other things to do. Um, that's number one. Number two is that it's just not sustainable. The methods are repetitive and boring, and it requires too much energy and too much focus and too much uh, discipline. So this is the alternative. This is what I suggest you do. First of all these 4 or 5 years of learning he did beforehand. So his vocab was probably in the maybe thousands of words that he knew already in Spanish. I mean, uh, he couldn't use them in quick conversation. He couldn't like improvise sentences with them probably, but they were there. Like he could recognize them if he read them somewhere or if we heard them. So for that, you need lots and lots of input. You need to start reading something easy, listening to something easy, like Asimil, the basic stuff, or mini stories on Link. Or if you wanted to do Duolingo, just do Duolingo. Like, I'd rather. There are many things I'd rather do than that, but yeah, to each their own. But yeah, main thing is consistency. Start small and increase your amount of daily reading, and keep doing it every single day. Read while listening so that you can learn the proper pronunciation. You see the words and you hear them. You do that for a while and you start trying to have conversations. For speaking, if you're afraid of speaking and you are way too slow and you're not confident and uh, you're so slow that before you form a sentence, like the other person's already has fallen asleep or something, then what you need to do is read aloud a lot. Listen while reading and then read again aloud, trying to imitate uh, the audio files you heard. And watch Netflix with subtitles, both subtitles and the audio in the target language. Do a lot of that as well. Between reading and listening at the same time, and reading aloud. Well, let's say yes, between reading, um, watching something on Netflix every day, and then if you prepare well, listening to language learning material and later on podcasts or radio while you are commuting, cooking, doing chores, working out, whatever, you can do 3 or 4 hours a day of learning if you add it all up. But you need to organize yourself well, and still you might not be able to do it every day. But yeah, I mean, the key is to, even if you start slacking some days, just keep doing it. This is like going to the gym, but you should treat it like a marathon, not like if you try this, if you try doing this for 8 hours, what you just saw, you won't finish the first day. I guarantee that you'll just quit because honestly, if you've got the discipline to do this, you should be making a lot of money doing something else, most people, and I'm not calling you lazy, uh, it just we've got limited amounts of energy and willpower, and this requires way too much of that. That's my problem with this. Um, if this guy, I think his name's Cameron, if you're actually doing this like the way you described it there, um, power to you. It's fucking. Oh, fuck. There goes the monetization. Um, it's really impressive if you can do this. I try not to swear, but I'm tired and it's late here. It's really, really impressive if you learn this way. Uh, but most people can do this. you know, it's I don't know. It's like when Elon Musk said that everyone should work 100 hours a week. Like, okay, Elon, take your medicine. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and please don't think this is me. Like, uh, I've got nothing against this guy. Like, nothing but respect for him. I I'm a big believer in discipline and work ethic. Uh, so this guy, I really admire this guy if he's able to do this. Looking forward to watching more of his content. I mean, there's a reason why he publishes videos so rarely because he really takes time to edit them and make them look really good, unlike me or some others. So yeah. Anyway, I'm rambling now, so yeah, that's all. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with Russian probably tomorrow. All right, guys. Cheers.